data that doesn't get measured doesn't get changed. So using the data that we get from wearable technology allows us to make informed decisions on how we can better our lives, not only in fitness, but in health also. Tracking anything from glucose to sweat alone, right, allows us to make better decisions on how to improve our life.
Yay Networks.
A quick note before we dive into today's podcast. If you like what you hear, I would love for you to subscribe to Fueled Wellness and Nutrition, wherever you download your podcast. It would also be incredible if you take a minute to rate and review this podcast. Those things do matter and they really help us. It's the start of the new year. And if you've listened to this podcast, you know I'm not all about new year, new you, because I think we're all really good as we are. But there's always that room for that extra little edge or that improvement. And something like wellness trackers, these fitness trackers, or some people call them wearables, there's a device out there that can measure or track pretty much anything. And so when we are looking at the start of the new year and kind of taking stock of what last year was all about, what's on the horizon coming up, and where can we best maximize our time? Where should we best kind of put that focus to enhance and become that best version of ourselves? These trackers really do have a place. And so whatever aspect we're looking to improve upon on our wellness, there's probably an app or a fitness tracker that can support that. And as a dietitian for more than 2 decades now, I've seen so many different versions of these. You know, they started out with just like a pedometer. It was like really exciting as we first saw that. But from the pedometer to the basic heart rate watches, you know, tracking our basic steps or calories, now these wellness trackers, they can serve to educate us and guide us, but they can also inspire us. There's so much that they're almost, you know, just like our smartphone is so intuitive, these trackers also are. And it's far beyond our steps or calorie tracking. There's things like our oxygen levels, our glucose levels, even our sweat or our sleep levels. There's so much that with just a simple scan or touch of our smartphone or looking down at our watch or whatever or ring, we'll be talking about all of these that we can see. And so I think it's important to note that these wearables, these apps, these trackers, they don't replace the expert guidance of a physician, a registered dietitian, or other healthcare providers, but they do empower us with this knowledge and they help to give us that data that, again, as we're assessing what's on the horizon, how can we maximize our own wellness? Also, that data we'll talk about, we can take this data to our healthcare team and ask them to incorporate this to help guide us on our individual journeys. And we're going to be talking about a bunch of different wellness trackers, but it's not just me that you're going to be listening to. I am joined today by Trevor Manuel. He's a friend of mine and a colleague from Ochsner Fitness Center. He's our wellness manager of Ochsner Fitness. So welcome, Trevor.
Hey, Molly, how are you?
It's great to have you here. This is our first podcast together. You have a wealth of knowledge in this space, and you've used a lot of these different trackers and devices yourself. You also have just, I think, such a good perspective in this realm of self-development.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, especially with wearable tech, right? What doesn't get measured doesn't get changed. And wearing tech allows you to aggregate data that allows you to really make informed decisions on what you need to do differently, right? Or what you need to keep doing the same. And so wearable tech really has its place in terms of health and fitness. And I've been wearing the Apple Watch. I've been wearing the Whoop. I got to wear the Nutrisense over the last couple of weeks, and that was really awesome. Definitely is a habit changer for sure. And so excited to talk to you about it today.
Yes, we'll talk about those. I'm also going to share with y'all, this isn't one that Trevor tried, but I don't think you have, but it is a sweat tracker. And it's interesting as well. There's just so many. So Trevor mentioned the Nutrisense. We're going to talk about a continuous glucose monitor. Nutrisense is one brand, but a continuous glucose monitor sounds like it's for someone with diabetes. I've talked about it before on this dedicated episode to it, but I want to hit on some high spots on it and just really how all of us, like Trevor said, it's definitely a habit changer. So we're going to talk about continuous glucose monitors and how that can benefit all of us well beyond just people with diabetes. We're going to be talking about Whoop or Whoop if you're me. If it's Trevor, it's Whoop. And I think it's probably Whoop. But Whoop is another version of a wellness type tracker. And then Aura. Aura is a ring. It's not a watch style, but it's a ring. And this is kind of one of the newer ones to hit the market. We'll touch on Apple Watch and Fitbit and the benefits of these because it's definitely, there's so much there. I just think probably many people are familiar with those as kind of, that's today's basics. And so these others that we're talking about besides that might kind of go into other spaces a little bit. And then there's one that we'll talk about, the sweat patch, which is kind of a fun one. So we're kind of going back and forth on which ones to start with, but I think let's start with the continuous glucose monitor.
Yeah. I think that's the one that's most fresh on my mind.
Yeah.
I got to put it on after coming home from a 5-day cruise. And so it's definitely interesting to see that data come through. So it was exciting.
We poked around and looked at your results before we started recording just now, and I was really impressed that your range of glucose level fluctuations was really tight. It was really controlled. And I guess before we get into that deeper, here's why it matters. Like when our glucose levels are continually fluctuating, and especially if our glucose levels are continually elevated, it causes vascular damage, it causes inflammation. So, what that means is it can lead to cardiovascular disease, it can lead to inflammatory conditions, rheumatoid arthritis. It could lead to, for me, I have a lot of joint inflammation or tendon type pain from overuse injuries just from years ago.
Yeah.
So, I'm constantly looking at how can I reduce that inflammation. Obviously, we know continuously elevated glucose levels lead to diabetes, but even mildly elevated glucose levels, when we have our levels up and our glucose levels are kind of hovering in that high range, even if it's not what would be diagnosable even as prediabetes, continually elevated glucose levels, like we said, vascular damage, inflammation, but they also, when it's hovering high and our bodies are trying to kick out that insulin to help balance it out, that insulin's a fat storage hormone. So if someone's goal is to lose extra body fat and we have those glucose levels just kind of riding high, our bodies are trying to kick out that insulin to help it shuttle that glucose into the cells. When our bodies are constantly producing that insulin, we're in fat storage. It's a fat storage hormone. So that's why, I mean, it really is a valuable tool for all of us just to kind of see how these choices we make affect it. Was there anything about yours that surprised you?
Well, so I tend to be hyper focused on data. And so whenever I put it on, I couldn't put my phone down because I always had
Well,
to.
tell how it works.
Yeah, so it comes in a little box, came in the mail. It comes with this little applicator that allows it to inject it right behind the tricep, right in the arm. And I was nervous. I was like, okay, I'm going to have my wife do this because I'm going to mess this up. I was thinking in my brain that there was a needle in my arm at all times. I think the needle is just kind of the conduit that allows the sensor to get in. So once it's in, there's like no more needle in there. You apply this KT tape like material over it and it keeps it on. You can wear it doing whatever, shower. I was doing jujitsu in it, and so I'm rolling
Hmm.
around and I'm doing a very like impactful sport. And at no point was I nervous about it coming off or being damaged or anything like that. And so it definitely allowed me to wear it throughout the entire process of my day to day living. And so, which some of these other devices you have to take off
Right.
if you're doing anything else. And so it was nice to get that continuous data. But yeah, threw it on and immediately was looking at my phone after anything I put in my mouth or after anything I did. Like, okay, what's changing? What is it doing? How is it working? And I have to know. Like, it was just one of those things to where I got elbow deep in the data.
If you're looking at Trevor and I talking right now, we're both like waving our hands over our triceps because what you would do
Fans
is you have this little sensor that you've essentially stuck into the back of your arm. And the applicator, it is intimidating to someone. And people have like, I mean, it does elicit strong fear in some people, a lot of people, I would
Yeah.
say, for either the person receiving it or the person who's helping to apply it. And what I kind of compare it to is like a notary stamp or
Yeah.
like a
Just a
return
good
address.
punch. Yeah.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
return address stamp on like, or like the passport
Yeah.
stamp type thing.
Welcome.
And you're welcome. And it kind of hits that in the back of your arm. And it's not even as much as like a finger stick if
I
you're
didn't
getting
even
blood.
feel it. Yeah,
Right.
it's just all hyped up for nothing.
Right.
And my
Right.
wife was really excited to inflict some pain. And nothing happened.
Nothing.
So she's like, dang.
And so then, like you said, you cover it with this, essentially waterproof patch. But once you have the sensor, it syncs with the app on your phone. And so the reason he and I are both like waving our palms over our own triceps is you then hold your phone and you essentially like wave your phone over that little
Yeah.
sensor and it syncs with the data. And so you can look and see where do you have, you can scan it. I believe it's as often as like,
Oh, I scanned it too often. Yeah, I was always scanning
I
it.
think
And
it
so,
makes you wait at least 5 or 10 minutes. Like there's a
yeah,
window, like
yeah,
it's a little bit that if you keep scanning it, you're like, it hasn't updated it yet. and it'll store data up to 8 hours. So if you forgot to do it, as long as you do it within an 8 hour window, you won't have any gaps of the data. But it is interesting because you can see, and it allows you to track your exercise, it allows you to track your food log. So you can see what causes spikes or what causes the drops where
Yeah.
your glucose is plummeting. And so as we were looking at yours, Trevor, it was really a tight control.
Yeah, and I was surprised on that. I tend to think of myself as having a poor diet, but I think I'm able to maybe not combat that with so much fitness, but I was assuming that my diet was causing more harm than it is. And
Yeah.
so not seeing that I'm not doing as much harm as I thought I was is helpful, but able to find point what exactly is causing me to spike over the last couple weeks has been nice.
And when I say has had a tight control, like as you look at the visual, it literally kind of charts it out in like a chart
Oh, it's a
style,
graph.
and it'll alert you kind of if it's in the yellow zone for caution, or I believe the red zone if you're like really dropping extremely low or popping extremely high. And Trevor's was very rarely in that caution ever. And one thing that I noticed was when you tend to do a variation on intermittent fasting, you
Yeah.
said, and you kind of skew towards more higher protein, lower carb. Your wife is,
Gluten intolerant. Yeah.
so y'all don't have really breads and stuff
No.
at home. When you did eat things that were higher carb, like in here you had a Chick-fil-A
Yeah.
sandwich and French fries,
Yep.
and it bumped him into the caution
Yeah.
of glucose.
All of a sudden, I'm feeling all lethargic, and what happened here?
And what was interesting though was how quickly you rebounded from
Yeah.
that. So maybe that elevation stayed up an hour or
Maybe
so,
less.
and
Yeah.
then it came back pretty quickly. But for you, it didn't drop you way low. It kind of, you came back
Back
to
to the
normal.
range. Yeah.
The difference that I had seen for myself was when I did have something that was a higher carb option like that, and especially like a higher refined carbohydrate, especially if it was in the evening and I wasn't going to be moving or having any physical movement, because exercise really lowers our glucose levels. I'll digress for a second, but that's something else you would notice here is if your glucose levels are running high, you could even go for a, let's say, 5 minute walk, and you would go, wow, you would start to see the glucose levels coming down. So that's also motivation to just even take that leisurely walk after dinner or something like that, because it really can help. But for me at night, if I had a snack that was even the equivalent of like a slice of bread's worth of carbohydrate, I was in that caution range for like 6 hours while I was sleeping.
Terrifying.
Yeah. And you were like, did you feel anything? And no, because I was sleeping. But what that means is for 6 hours, my glucose levels are hovering high. My insulin is kicking out. We're looking at inflammation. We're looking at all these things that even though I couldn't feel it, those aren't great. And so for me, that showed me that I have a poor, basically compensation for higher glucose levels, and your body adjusted for it very well,
Yeah.
you know?
I think the one thing I was surprised with was that like post hard exercise, it was spiking really high.
Yeah.
So just being aware of that and knowing that I'm coming out of a hard exercise and not falling into the trap of I just worked out really hard. I can reward myself with
Right.
something sweet, and
Right.
just staying away from the glucose for periodic or a little bit of time till it came back down and I can eat.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was interesting to see that. And I was like, oh, what did I do? I hadn't had anything to drink, hadn't done anything too crazy in terms of food, and spiking through the roof just from exercising.
Was there anything that you ate that you thought was really nutritious and it raised it? Or were you pretty much like one of you had some evenings where it spiked high, but you knew you had had like
Yeah,
sweets at
yeah,
night?
sweets at night. Running around with two kids under two.
Yeah.
I just can eat whenever I can. That's why I think a non-intentionally intermittent fast.
Right.
But yeah, I don't think there was anything like that Chick-fil-A sandwich was. It was a grilled
Right.
chicken sandwich, and so for me, I'm assuming okay,
Right.
this can't be too bad, right? There are worse things that are out there. But yeah, no, it spiked me through the roof.
Right.
So
So it's one of those that again, continuous glucose monitor, NutriSense is the brand that I've used. I really like the app interface on it. That's what Trevor also used. But it's something that when we're talking about, we're going to talk more about all these other sensors, the Apple Watch, the Fitbit, but especially like Whoop and the Aura Ring. When we're looking at all the different things that these trackers track, this specifically gives us like in real time and real minute feedback about how what we eat affects our glucose levels, but also not just how we eat, but how we move, our stress levels, our sleep levels. We're able to see all of that in real time, how it affects our glucose levels. To me, it's tremendous.
yeah, and I think it's just one of those things. For me, it was a habit changer. Like we keep saying, it was a habit changer. was one of those things to where immediately waking up, the first thing I was doing was putting my phone to my arm
Right.
to get a reading, right? Because I know, okay, it's been 8 hours since I had a last reading. I gotta get this, and then I'll tell my wife good morning, right? And so it's like one of those things to where it's like immediately I'm checking to see
Right.
what's happening, right?
Right.
And so if we're looking for wearable tech, like, are we looking for it to make a change?
Right.
And I had to force myself a couple times to make sure that, okay, let's get real data. Let's not just be hyper aware with the
Right.
fall into the trap of seeing numbers change immediately. It's like, okay, let's get a control here,
Right.
right? Let me eat normal for the next couple of days to see if what I'm doing is good, and then let's make a change and see how that data changes.
My
So
father-in-law had seen it on my arm and I was explaining to him what it is. He's like, "What happens when you eat a Snickers?"
yeah,
And I
find
said, "Well,
out.
I don't eat the Snickers." The Snickers.
Yeah,
So I don't eat Snickers. Well, what about ice cream? Like he kept throwing out all these things that I was like, "Well, I haven't had that since I've had it on," and he was so curious like how but for me, some things that we perceive as healthy, just like
yeah,
yours, you go, wow, like I didn't realize just the response I would have. So NutriSense I mentioned is the one that's my preferred brand. There's also I thought was interesting within Ochsner, just to give an example, Ochsner being our health system here in the Gulf South area and really across Louisiana and to around.
yeah.
The our pharmacy offers if someone has diabetes, it's like $25 a month for a continuous glucose monitor. If someone doesn't have diabetes, it is $105 a month. I haven't seen what the app interface is of that, but it is the similar sensor, but I don't know what the app interface is. And then with NutriSense, I'm actually going to include a promo code on here. It's Fueled. They sponsor, I will say, they sponsored our podcast, this podcast last year in 2022. That's not why we're talking about it,
Yeah.
but I did check and that promo code Fueled still works. So we'll include that in the show notes here. But it's something to talk with your doctor about. And you may need to kind of bring some information to them because it may not be something that they're super familiar with, except for people with diabetes. But if it can be that habit changer, and again, okay, if you're like the Ochsner pharmacy, if someone doesn't have diabetes, it's $105 for a 1 month sensor. That 1 month sensor can be enough.
Yeah.
It's not like you have to do it month after month. And so that might be worth you paying that $100, $105 to have that data. And then you learn and you can learn a lot in
Yeah,
that
30
window.
days of data is a lot of data,
Yeah.
right? This was only 2 weeks of worth of data, and right, I got enough information to make some informed decisions moving forward. And I think that's what's important about wearable tech is that we're not just wearing it just to
Right.
check text messages or go
Right.
gadget, call my mom, right? It's allowing us to make informed decisions of how do I become better from this, right? And this sensor definitely
It's so
was
cool.
one of those things. Right?
Oh, a big one I didn't mention, part of the reason too that I love NutriSense is they have dietitian support.
Yeah. She's always
Free.
texting me. Yeah.
Yes.
She's chatting and if I don't answer on the app, it goes to my email.
Right.
She's like, hey, just checking in. Haven't seen you scanned in a while, right? And just making sure
Right.
that, hey, do you have any questions about what's going on here? I saw you had a Chick-fil-A sandwich. Like this is what's
Right.
going on. And so they're following up with you.
And
Right?
it's not a bot.
No,
It's a
no, it's a real live
dietitian.
person.
Yes.
Colleen here, shout out.
Yeah.
So,
Yours is Colleen. Yeah. Yeah. There's a dietitian named Molly,
Yeah.
actually Molly Downey that works with NutriSense, but there's several. And so that's another reason it's, the app interface that they have. I really love it. The dietitian support. So it is registered dietitians like what we have with our team at Ochsner Fitness. It's that type of care that you get as you're doing it. So we'll link to their site and I'm also going to include that promo code. And again, if you are like, well, maybe it's not that one, but I'll look at other sensors that, you can talk with your doctor about. Let's take a minute to share about Nutrafol, sponsor for this week's episode. Y'all have heard me say it before. When it comes to skin and hair care, I'm a huge rules follower, very consistent, and I follow the specific recommendations of my dermatologist. So when I first had learned about Nutrafol, I'd reached out to get her feedback on it, and she said not only does she recommend it to her patients, she also uses it herself. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement, clinically shown to improve thicker, fuller, healthier hair from the inside out. Nutrafol supports healthy hair growth from within by targeting the 5 root causes of thinning: stress, hormones, environment, nutrition, and metabolism. It is possible to grow thicker, healthier hair and support our show by going to Nutrafol.com, entering promo code FUELED for $15 off your first month's subscription. This is their best offer anywhere. It's only available to U.S. customers for a limited time. Plus, free shipping on every order, $15 off at Nutrafol.com. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code FUELED. We're going to come back to Apple Watch and Fitbit. What I'll say real quickly is Apple Watch, I think a lot of us are familiar with Apple Watch or Fitbit of tracking things like our heart rate and kind of our exercise, maybe metrics. We'll come back to that though. Whoop is almost, I wouldn't say it's the reverse, but it's not geared towards tracking our performance quite so much.
Yeah, I think it's super intentional, very similar to how NutriSense or these other wearable glucose monitors are, is that it's super intentional for tracking data for evidence-based like updates, right? So if I'm wearing the Whoop, I'm wearing it because I'm tracking my performance, I'm tracking my sleep so that I can get an educated data on what my recovery is. So I can make a better decision on how am I going to train tomorrow, right? And so too often we train Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I say, hey, Molly, we're going to train hard every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesdays and Thursdays. We'll go lighter. We'll do just lower rep schemes or anything like that. My Whoop may show that I wake up Wednesday morning and I'm had a terrible recovery. Maybe I'm recovering from a cold or I just had a bad night's sleep. The Whoop would tell me that, hey, today is the day that you should probably recover. Or I may wake up on a Tuesday morning and have a really high recovery, and it's letting me know that, hey, don't waste today, right? Today is a good day to push. You should push today. You have high recovery because of high heart rate variability or
Like
low
you've
heart rate
recovered
variability.
effectively.
Yeah.
And when we
So
talk about recovery, tell us what that's based on, like the kind of the metrics that it's looking at to gauge that recovery.
yeah, so the recovery is looking at mainly just your sleep, and so it's tracking your heart rate, your breathing rate, your movement, and whatnot throughout the sleep. And so, like for me, it would track how often was I waking up throughout the night, what was my respiratory rate like throughout the night, where was my heart rate variability, was it really high or was it really low? And so, based on all that data, it's going to let you know that if you are just operating in an optimal space to train heavy that day or train or just to push it.
One of the things that I've seen about Whoop is that it prompts, because I haven't personally used that
Yeah.
one, but you have, and it prompts you to answer some daily questions that you can
Yeah.
customize. So you could customize it to say, did you drink alcohol the night before? Did you have, as Trevor fessed up to his like late night
Yeah.
sweet snack? Did you have sugar late at night last night? Did you work late at night? What are some things that maybe are really relevant to you? And you can include that in kind of these like, it's customizable. You can have it daily. And it's sort of like we're used to seeing now your food log and how that affects things.
Yeah.
We talked about that with the glucose monitor. You can track your food and your exercise and see how did that affect it. But this is prompting us to track other things to see, wow, I drank the nights, but when I drink, my heart rate is so high the next day.
Yeah. Yeah. The journal entries, and that's what these are. These are the journal entries that you do every night or every morning when you wake up. Very similar how I was getting
Right.
my glucose meter every morning. These are my journal entries that I was doing. And at the end of the month, they're going to send you a 3 to 5 page PDF document that's going to tell you that, hey, on the nights you drank, these were your recovery scores the next morning. On the nights that you had really good sleep and then you slept 7+ hours, this was your recovery. So it gives you uh,
Summary.
a monthly summary of
Wow.
all
You're
your
not even
data.
having to really think that
No,
hard or
you
do the
don't have to go
analytics
back and do it.
yourself.
No, they're going to send you everything and they're going to say everything that
And
you
it's in a
wanted.
PDF.
Yeah, it's a PDF.
Wow.
It shows up on your phone. You can access it from the
Wow.
web. And so it's just really nice.
I'd poked around the website and kind of looked at people's feedback, but I didn't realize that element
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times when you're tracking, just as with anything, you kind of you're doing the detective work
Mhm.
and which days did I drink and what was the next day. But this is really pulling all that data
Yeah.
together
It's like
for us.
calling from Nutrisense coming in saying, hey,
Yeah,
that
that's
Chick-fil-A sandwich you ate
cool.
wasn't too hot.
Every
Yeah.
time,
Yeah. Every
right?
time, every
Wow.
month. Yeah.
So you can customize it if there's certain things that maybe you suspect are like, is this affecting it? And you can, customize it so that it's prompting you, it's reminding you basically to enter that journal entry. And then the Whoop is interesting because it just looks like a band.
Yeah. And so it is very much of just a band, similar to how the glucose meter was just the applicator on your arm.
You're not seeing like a watch face on
Yeah,
it.
so it's I think they're doing what they wanna do in terms of don't confuse this with the watch, don't confuse this with other wearable tech. This is strictly just to measure your performance and measure your recovery. And so, those are some of the things that, like, I maybe had an issue with was that I wish there was just a little timepiece, right?
Right.
Maybe just tell me what
Right.
time it is, right?
Right.
Because I like the Apple Watch because of its ability to stay connected and to check the time, right? If I have something on my wrist, I'm always looking at it to
Right.
see the time. Um, but it is a cool device that you never have to take it off,
Mhm.
right? And even to charge it, they have a unique charger that's just a puck that slides over it. So whenever you do need to charge, typically charge lasts about 6 days or so. And then when you need to charge it, you slide this puck on. It takes about 45 minutes to an hour, fully charged, and then you do it again in 6 days. And that can travel with you. So
Mhm.
if you're out somewhere, you're traveling, you can just put this on and continue your exercise and not miss a second of data.
Like, you can literally still charge it while it's on your wrist and keep
Still
on
charge it
rolling.
while, yeah, sure.
That's really
Yeah.
cool. So, thinking about the different devices as we're talking about what we're wearing, separate from the glucose monitors, the other types of wearables, Whoop is really um, looking at telling us what our recovery is looking like. How ready or how rested, how primed are we to like step things up in terms of our workouts, or could we benefit from maybe dialing it back a little
Yeah.
bit? How would someone in the like real world do this? Like, let's just say someone is in that routine that Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they're going to like a cycle class, or they're going to like a high intensity type training class. They're doing something that just is in their schedule, and maybe they've paid for this series of classes. Well, what if they wake up that morning and that is their planned workout, yet their watch is showing them they're fatigued, but they're feeling fine?
Yeah.
It's a little bit like I was actually had somebody tell me this weekend, like sometimes it tells me I'm fatigued, but I don't feel it, and I
Yeah.
feel like I could do, fill in the blank and do that and perform well.
Yeah, so, I had many of those days, right, to where I woke up and was like, "I feel great," but my recovery score
It's
was
telling
in
me
the
I should feel like
20s, yeah.
crap, right?
Yeah, and so it was just making me aware that something is happening, right? Then I would go back and look at my respiratory rate. Respiratory rate was through the roof that night. It's normally like 13 to 14 breaths a minute, and all of a sudden I'm breathing 16 breaths a minute. So something is going on that I'm maybe not feeling while I'm sleeping, but come to find out in a day or two, I'm catching a cold, right? And my whoop was
Yeah,
reading
sensed
that
it.
before I was even there. And if I were to work out really hard that day when my recovery score was really low, I could potentially make that cold that's coming on worse, right? And so it does allow you to do that.
Did you
Um,
feel like it got in your head any? Like,
oh, for sure.
because like
Right.
you would wake up
Yeah.
and you'd be like, I feel fine. And then you're like, oh, but do I?
Yeah. And it'd be days like when you wake up and say, like, at the time I was wearing a whoop, I was competing in CrossFit and doing a lot
Right.
of local competitions and things like that. It was really important for me not to look at my whoop score the day of competition, right?
Right.
Because if I looked at it
Yeah.
and I was at 30, 35 recovery or something like that, it would be in my
What's the
head.
score of recovery? Like, what's
So
the range?
out of 100%. So
Okay.
you can be 100% recovered or 0%
Where did you
recovered.
usually fall?
So typically, it really depended, right? It really depended on what I was doing the day before, how hard was I training the day before, what was it, did I have a cold or was I recovering like I should have? Um, but I got to the point to where I could wake up and guess my score before looking at my phone.
What did yours range from? Like, what was the lows that you would see sometimes on the regular, or what were the highs, the well recovered
I typically
scores?
would stay in the middle of the road. I typically have a low HRV, and so my heart rate variability was typically pretty low, and so that allowed me to stay pretty recovered
Mm-hmm.
throughout. But I would notice that there would be days I would wake up in the 20s, and it was just either I trained really hard that day and then went into, hey, we got the honeydew list is a
Right.
mile long, and I'm out pulling weeds or
Right.
I'm out mowing the grass or doing whatever.
Or didn't sleep
Just
that well.
yeah, and it was a long day. Maybe I was just stayed up late and woke up the
Mm-hmm.
next morning and, hey, guess what? Today you're not training.
What were some of the like? What were the high ranges that you would get to?
Yeah, so you can get all the way up to 100%.
But what about you?
Yeah, I don't think I got to 100%. I think I had many days in the 90s.
Yeah, that's
Um,
good. That's
but
really good.
it was just one of those things to where like I would have one of those days to where I worked really hard, trained really hard, and I was going to wake up in the morning thinking I'm in the 50s or something, but I'm in the 90s. And it's
Yeah.
just one of those things to keep you motivated to say, okay, don't waste today, right? I have a
Right.
like when I would wake up and see that score on the app, it'd be like,
You're
okay, I
revved.
have to go, right? I have to. I
Yeah.
wasn't planning on training today, but my whoop says I have to train
Right.
today. And
Yeah.
and the whoop has a cool teams aspect of it also,
Okay.
to where if you were wearing it, we could have a team and I could see your recovery score every morning. I could see your strain score every morning. I could see your sleep score every morning. So we would wake up and I would look at the leaderboard and say, where
Right.
was I on the leaderboard with my other friends and things
Right.
like that. And so it did allow you to be some competitiveness to it.
Especially if that's a group that's kind of doing similar
Yeah, we're all
workouts
doing the same training.
together.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's really, really cool.
Let's talk for a minute about Caraway Home, partner for this week's episode. Caraway Home's non-toxic kitchenware collections make cooking and baking a piece of cake. We love our cookware. It is our go-to for everything from seared salmon to creamy spinach to our Eat Fit candied cashews. The pans heat up quickly, they cook so evenly, and they're incredibly easy to clean. With our exclusive discount, you can now save on the full suite of Caraway products, including their internet-famous non-toxic cookware set, also Caraway's food storage, tea kettle, and mini cookware. Visit carawayhome.com/fueled to take advantage of this limited time offer for 10% off your next purchase. This deal is exclusive for our listeners, so visit carawayhome.com/fueled or use promo code FUELED at checkout. Caraway, non-toxic cookware made modern.
So Aura it's relatively new. I've just started hearing about it in the past couple of months. I don't
Yeah.
know if you saw when it came out.
Yeah, it's like a wearable ring that has a
Right.
sensor on it that a
Is it
lot tracks
within
very similar things to the Whoop. I haven't worn it. I typically wear like a silicone ring only
it's
because
pretty new.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
within months or the past year.
yeah. I think just taking the technology that is in a Whoop
Yeah.
and like kind of like a 1.5 inch by 1 inch kind of square and putting all that in a
Yeah.
ring is the tech is getting there to where we can have those 20 sensor points
And
all in
literally
one ring.
a ring that you put on your finger.
Yeah,
And people wear it on their thumbs, their ring
yeah,
fingers, like
yeah.
it's
Wherever.
any. Yeah.
Yeah.
And some of them are really fancy. I don't know if you've seen
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, they got like metallic look to it. I'm not sure
Yeah.
if they're silicone or actually like maybe like a stainless steel.
They have some that are like titanium. I
Yeah.
think some that are rose gold. I believe I saw some that were like like high end brands that you would see at
Like
like
he went to Jared and got me a Aura ring. Yeah.
even like I'm not gonna say Louis Vuitton. I'll say that like off of
Yeah,
my
yeah,
head,
yeah.
but it was brands like that. And I was like, really? They have the design of their brand that is
Yeah.
on this Aura ring. It was interesting. So it's not a watch. That one is a ring. And like Whoop, it also tracks our sleep, our recovery. They call it a readiness
Yeah.
score. And so they give you your readiness score, just like Trevor was talking about his experience with Whoop. You can imagine the Aura ring being very, very similar, but it's a ring. Um, it also tracks, like Apple Watch or Fitbit, our heart rate, our activity, our training frequency, our sleep metrics, and all of that. But is also looking at that recovery, giving us that readiness score. And I don't know if I would say if I haven't had anybody give specific feedback on that. Have you?
No, I haven't talked to anybody specifically that's worn it, but
I have a lot of people who've told me, "Oh, I want one of those for
yeah,
Christmas."
it'd be cool, right?
Yeah.
It'd be cool to get the data without having to, like, for me, having stuff on my wrist, especially now training a sport like jujitsu. It's like we can't wear anything like that. But I could wear a ring and get away with that. I could wear a Whoop with the bicep band that they
Right.
have. I wore the NutriSense while training, and so, but to have something like that that could allow you to track data that's not
Right.
so, you could wear the Aurora and wear the Apple Watch,
And no one's going to know.
and no one's gonna know.
In full disclosure, as Trevor and I are recording this, it
Playing with
is
our hands.
well, it's also right before Christmas that we're recording this in advance for you because with holiday and travel, that we wanted this to drop for y'all right in the beginning of January as we're talking about habit changes. So I have a feeling like right now, as you and I are recording, it's like 5 days out from Christmas.
Yeah.
And so I bet by the time this drops, a lot more people are going to have them and we're going to have more people's feedback
yeah,
for
they're
it.
gonna have it all.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm also gonna have all the ads on my phone. Like, buy
Right.
this ring.
Right, exactly. And also they're gonna, yes, if our friends are listening to us too. So Whoop and Aura are both, if you're looking, I guess if you're looking for someone who's assessing their readiness or their recovery. And so I think you said earlier that a lot of times this might be for the athlete, the person who's very performance driven.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, anytime we put wearable tech on that's going to give us data, it's important to do something with that data. So regardless of what the device is, it's important to make some informed decisions based on the data that you're getting, so that you can be better, right? And so you can make some change that you want to make to help you achieve your goals. And so, I definitely think the ring would allow you to do that just based on what's recording, very similar to the Whoop. I think it even tracks your steps, which makes it nice. So
It
it's more
is.
data.
It's
Just
pricey.
yeah.
It starts at like $300, I'm saying.
Yeah, and so I mean, we talk about $300 for a ring. The
Yeah.
Whoop is going to cost you $30 a month, right? So
Yeah.
over the course of a year, it's going to be about $300.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
like when you're looking at it
Yeah.
and you're making your, I guess your return on investment, it's
Right.
like, are you going to use the data over the year, or you just want to wear Whoop for a couple months to see where your data is, or
Right.
where the NutriSense for
Right.
that 1 month if you don't have diabetes for $105, like that allows you to get some data and
That's
make a decision.
a great point. As you're kind of weighing like the cost
Yeah.
benefit of it, something like the NutriSense, if it's NutriSense through the company, the continuous glucose monitor from them, they have a 3 month, 6 month, or year long, or you can also do a 1 month. But ballpark, you could say, roughly a couple $100 a month, depending on the subscription length. But again, you could do just 1 month and you're going to have like a lot of data.
Yeah.
The Whoop is $30 a month, but that also includes the strap. Like you're not buying the strap separately.
Yeah. So the strap is the $30 is pretty much just for the app and all the
Yeah.
data, right? The strap is free, is I think what they say online.
Yeah.
And so
Free included in your 30 a
yeah,
month.
it's included in your 30. But yeah, I mean, the strap you can buy different bands if you want to match your
Right.
outfit. Or
Right.
something
Right.
Like that.
The
But
basic is
yeah,
free.
yeah. I went with a black band, black reader,
Yes.
and just pay the 30 a month.
And then the Aura, like we said, starts at $300. Some of those fancies that we talked about were like a lot more than that. And then there's still on top of that a membership fee that's like $5.99 a month.
Probably for the data.
Right. And then Fitbit and Apple Watch. We'll talk about those. And while we're talking pricing, we'll kind of jump in. So the Fitbit, currently is about 300-ish.
Yeah.
And then the Apple Watch Series 8 that we'll talk about, it starts at about $399. There is one called an Apple Watch Ultra, which is like kind of the rough and tumble. And that one is about $800.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all of these are, it may be something that you got for Christmas, or it may be something that you didn't, but now you're kind of still thinking. So it does come to weighing out how long are you going to use it? How are you going to use the data? So Apple Watch and Fitbit, Apple Watch has, I think, the edge on technology.
Yeah, I think because of how connected it allows you to be.
Right.
For me, the Apple Watch was really nice because if I lost my phone, I loved to ping it. And it's like, oh, there's my phone. It's in the kitchen over there. Right. And so it was like playing Where's Waldo with it. But it does allow you to be extremely connected. And it does allow you to use other apps that you use for fitness. If you use Strava, if you use MyFitnessPal, if you use Nike Plus or anything like that, you could do all that on the Apple Watch. So you didn't have to only use the Whoop app or the NutriSense app to track your data, or you could use whatever you were using already. And so it is really nice to have, right? And it does track some good data. It does track some good things, but it's all in the health app on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
And let's be honest, when was the last time you opened the health app on your phone?
Right.
It's there.
Right.
It's already an app on your phone, but how rarely do we
Right.
go there to check our steps or to check where all of our other apps are feeding to
Right.
us? And so it goes back to, if we're gathering the data, what are we going to do with it?
Right. Right.
And so some of these other devices, these other wearable techs are super intentional, which I like because you tend to be a little more bought in on it. An Apple Watch, you get caught up with, oh, I can just check my text messages.
Right.
Right. And so
it becomes a communication device versus a tracking device as much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. And so you can email, text, call from it. You can stream music. You can use Apple Pay, all of that. To me, those are things that would induce like more anxiety because, I want to try to like turn off as many alerts and things like that. And you can turn it off of the watch. You can choose to have those on or off. And then, of course, there's like the usual step tracker and heart rate and calories. But then there's like so much more. So the Apple Watch, it can be valuable for monitoring our heart health, our vascular health, our sleep quality that we've been talking about. But the Apple Watch, you can basically do an electrocardiogram, an ECG on yourself
and
with
to
this.
send that data right back to your doc.
Right.
Yeah, it's already connected.
And so it's looking at our heart rate and our heart rhythm and then checking for essentially AFib. And that's something that, an irregular heartbeat. And so it's something that I was actually talking with a cardiologist about this, and he was sort of on the fence because he's like, it could give like false positives.
Yeah.
So it could induce a sense of fear in people, but then bringing that to your physician, and then is it or isn't it,
Yeah.
And then for someone who has been diagnosed with AFib, it can be a really convenient tool to help monitor and, like you said, communicate with your physician.
Yeah.
Um, did you use it for that, doing like the ECG, or have you used it for measuring like your blood oxygen
No,
saturation levels?
my wife has though, and so she has had some issues with just blood pressure and things like that, and
Right.
so she would use the ECG on it and get some information, and that would allow her to recognize that, okay, the way I'm feeling is validated, right? That my heart is doing this, and I'm getting that data right away, and so
Right.
it does allow you to make better informed
Right.
decisions. Do I take my medication now, or do I contact my physician? So
And I think a lot of us became familiar with something like a pulse ox during
yeah,
COVID. And normally it kind of looks like a clip that you would put on your finger. But the Apple Watch has essentially what's the equivalent of a medical grade pulse ox
yeah,
device built into it.
awesome.
How did yours range?
So I typically would I mean, I feel like I'm oversaturated in terms of oxygen.
Do you really?
But I mean, I've been looking at like obviously
That's why
my
your recovery's so good
yeah,
for Whoop.
probably yeah. But yeah, I mean, we've been hyper aware. My infant daughter has been having some breathing issues, and so we've been hyper aware of that. So I've been throwing
Right.
on her pulse ox also.
Yeah.
But yeah, no,
Like oxygen is like
yeah,
a frequent
yeah,
conversation in the
yeah.
manual household.
Now glucose is, and so
Right.
we're definitely getting.
How old's your daughter?
She just turned 1.
You're gonna be
Yeah.
like chasing her down and putting that
It's
Nutrisense on the
crazy.
back of her arm.
100%, yes. Yeah, she's never missed a meal. Look at her, she's massive.
um, okay, so pulse ox, looking at our heart rhythm, diagnosing something or identifying the potential for something like AFib, and then our sleep quality. And when we talk about sleep quality, how much time are we spending in deep sleep, light sleep, REM sleep? Anything else that kind of stood out to you as like these like crazy like high tech capabilities of Apple Watch?
So for me, the Apple Watch, I really like the ability the gamification that Apple Watch does with the 3 rings.
Yeah, tell us about this.
So
I like how you
for
call it gamification.
yeah, so it allows you to if it's I believe it's like 10 minutes to the start of every hour. If you hadn't met your move goal or your stand goal, it was gonna say, "Hey, time to stand," right? And so it was reminding you that, hey, movement is important, standing is important, exercise is important. So and like we talked about the Whoop, to where you could share that information with friends and family, right? I used to our Wayne, our AVP, him and I would share data on the Apple Watch, and I would see it every time Wayne exercised. It would notify me, and I could say, "Hey, nice job," right away. And so it allowed you to be connected to other people and share your goals and what you're doing
And
and how you're moving.
encourage
Yeah, for sure.
encourage others. And the 3 rings, it's literally 3 rings that start out like as a partial ring, and the goal is to kind of close each of them into a full circle
Yeah,
by the end of the day. And those rings represent moving more or exercising regularly, and then the third is sitting less. And so as you're doing those things, moving more, getting like specific intentional exercise, and standing or sitting less, it's actually helping to bring those rings into a full circle. So you're trying to close each of those by the end of the day.
yeah,
And so, and it gives you the reminders. And again, you can connect with people. Fitbit and specifically the Fitbit Sense 2 is, I think, one that it's come a long way also from just the original Fitbit. So if
yeah,
someone had that and you haven't kind of looked to see what's new, it also has a lot of similar capabilities that the Apple Watch has, minus, of course, all the communications that Apple Watch has. One thing that Apple Watch has that I thought was really interesting, did you have this set up to where it could notify your contacts with an emergency
yeah.
SOS?
Like a fall risk,
Yeah.
right? So
Or a car crash or something.
anything, right? And so after my grandmother, after she had these night terrors and she would wake up and fall down, it was really scary, right? And so we immediately went out and bought her an Apple Watch,
Grandma got an Apple
right? And
Watch.
so it
Yeah,
was
wow.
like we just it was a peace of mind knowing that if she were to fall and was unconscious, she was the EMS was going to be notified, and her or in case of emergency contacts were going to be
Wow.
notified. And so it was just one of those things to where if anybody you love has a potential fall risk, slap an Apple Watch
You're
on them,
right.
just peace of mind, right? And so, because if no one's around, they're falling at their house and they
Right.
bump and hit their head.
Oh my gosh, you're
It could
right.
be a couple hours before you make it home and notice
Yeah.
that they have been unconscious.
We have a friend who's she's in her 70s, and she still works, she lives a very full life, but she had been having some balance issues. And a couple of months ago she fell, and she fell at, I don't know, 6 o'clock in the morning getting ready for work, and wasn't able to reach her phone, wasn't able to have any communications. And it wasn't until someone realized they hadn't heard from her all day that it's like 14 hours later,
Yeah.
she'd been on the ground. But had she been wearing the Apple Watch,
Yeah.
yeah. So if she's listening, she'll know who she is.
Yeah.
Might be getting yourself an Apple Watch.
And I
Yeah.
think even now, as the tech is progressing, the Apple Watch and even your phone can track your gait patterns, right? To where it can let you know if you are potential risk of falling just based
Right.
on how you're stepping
Yeah, that's
throughout the
interesting.
day. And so they could let you know that, hey, you may be a higher risk for a potential fall, right? And so what do you need to do to prevent
Hmm.
that?
Right. No,
Yeah.
that's really, really cool. And again, something like the watch, you're going to have that on, and an Apple Watch, you can shower
Yeah,
and
do
everything
what
with it.
do everything.
So someone like Trevor's grandmother or this friend that we're talking about, it would be something that would basically just live on their wrist. Unlike a phone, which you would have to think they're going to have that on their person, which especially someone who's older, they're not,
Yeah. They're not
keeping that.
connected like we are.
No,
Yeah.
not at all, which is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
But we want
Jealous.
that watch on them. So the continuous glucose monitor for the looking at that glucose tracking that we talked about, which is fascinating, whether someone's has diabetes or not. And then the Whoop and also the Aura Ring, looking at recovery. Apple Watch and Fitbit, we would say, air quote, they're more basic than some of those others that we talked about, but they're really not. I think they're anything but basic. And to me, the technology that is embedded in these tiny little devices is just a game changer for us.
Yeah, I would say the Apple Watch and the Fitbit is kind of like that jack of all trades. Right? It's
Yeah.
it's not the master of one, but
Right.
it knows a lot about
Yeah.
all the other areas that you like to track. And so
Yeah.
I think back to that point of if you're going to collect data, you got to do something with it.
Yeah.
And so while the Fitbit and the Apple Watch do that, there are other things that you can wear that is super intentional
Right.
for things that you want to be extremely specific about measuring.
So there's one that's a strange, not strange, but someone may be like, why would I track that? And it's a sweat patch. Have you ever used one of these?
No, I haven't, but I think I'm going to.
It's much less terrifying to apply than the glucose
Yeah.
monitor, which actually, like we said, is not terrifying. But if the first time someone does it, it's an alarming experience for some. But the sweat patch, the ones that are the easiest and kind of, I would say, easy access and really a low price point is Gatorade. It's the GX sweat patch. They're $25 for a pack of two, and it's sort of you put it on your forearm and you would leave it there during exercise, and then you log like how long you were training and also like what the conditions were. And so if it knows that you were training for 30 minutes, it's going to calculate your sweat rate per hour based even on your 30-minute workout. But the report that it'll give you is if you are basically a heavy sweater, that you have a high volume of sweat. And so that would mean that, especially like now, as this podcast is dropping as early January, it's going to be cooler for most people listening to this. But still, you would be surprised at how much you still may be losing in terms of sweat, but especially come summertime and athletes who are training outside or people out in the heat, even people who are non-athletes, but they're working outside in those hot, humid environments, or working inside in a warehouse space. Like, this is something that I think can be really valuable. It tracks our volume of sweat lost. And so for me, I know I'm a very like heavy volume, high volume sweater.
Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah, for
Like,
sure.
it's crazy.
I grew up wrestling, so I've been wrestling since
Yeah.
the third grade. Now doing jujitsu for sport, and I measure workouts by how much sweat I
Yeah.
produce, right? And so it's like, is my shirt? Can I wring it out
Yeah.
like a dish rag?
So
Right,
then
and
we
so-
know too that to replenish, we need to make sure we're consuming even a higher volume
Yeah.
of fluids to
Yeah.
replenish.
Yeah.
Like, you and I were just talking before we started this. My husband over the past couple of years has been teaching me tennis. Now we just go out there and hit. I'm not into like sets or matches, but I really like hitting for that power and just trying to get better and like even more skilled at it. And in the humid, like window of time, hot humid, which is like 8 months out of the
Every
year
day.
here, it will look like it's raining on the court around me because the sweat is just like flinging from like the impact of the racket. The sweat just flings off of the body. And I feel like Rafa Nadal.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
What color sweat drops are you that if you're a Gatorade commercial?
I know.
Yeah. It's
That's a
probably
good
purple.
question. I think purple
Yeah.
or hot pink.
I'm an orange Gatorade, so it's got to be orange.
You drink orange
MJ.
Gatorade?
I
That's a whole nother
typically,
conversation.
yeah, I know. I'll throw in like a scoop of protein powder into it as like I'm having one of those really long
Mhm.
workouts and I need something like intro workout. It'll be like a little Gatorade with some vanilla protein powder because it tastes like creamsicle, and that'll get me through a long, heavy set. But we'll talk about this later.
Well, we're going to talk about it right now for just a
Okay, let's
second. We're talking about the sweat patch by Gatorade called the Gator GX sweat patch. However, I'm not a fan of the Gatorade sports drink. Sorry.
Yeah,
There's variations of Gatorade, but just the straight regular Gatorade. I don't love it because we'll talk about I don't love it because it has the artificial colors. And it also has, a lot of sugar, and sometimes or many times someone may be losing large volumes of sweat, but they don't really need that level of sugar
Yeah.
or glucose for whatever the sugar source is for the length of time that they're working out. If you haven't tried it, try My High.
Okay.
Also, let me ask you this.
I like the Body Armor Light.
Okay,
I've been
yes,
doing that after jujitsu, and I
Yes.
really enjoy that.
that's a great one.
The small one's like what, 12 ounces or something.
It's by the Coca-Cola now has Body Armor Light, and so it is available in like Target and
Yeah.
Walmart, and we have it at the fitness center. But pretty much, if you see like where Coca-Cola is available, you can get Body Armor Light, which is the opposite. I think Pepsi owns Gatorade, so Gatorade's probably like, stop talking, just talk about our sweat patch and move on. But Body Armor Light is a really good alternative. You're right, because it's ready-made sports drink. It has very, very low sugar and no artificial colors, no artificial sweeteners or anything like that. So I love Body Armor Light. It's especially good for someone who is not a super salty sweater, which the first component, I kind of got on a tangent, but the first component that Sweat Patch measures, the GX Sweat Patch, is volume. The second component that it measures is concentration of like sodium concentration. And so for me, I'm a high volume sweater, but a relatively low concentration of sodium. So that means like I'm not a very salty sweater.
Salty sweater.
You can feel it on your
I can
clothes,
feel it.
crystalline.
I can taste it.
Yeah.
Gross. Like
So
some clothes I just got to throw away. They're just toast.
yeah. Yeah. And it's all gritty.
Yeah. It's awful.
So for me, being high volume, but a relatively low concentration of salt that I'm losing, a product like Trevor was just talking about, Body Armor Light, would be great because it's got moderate amounts of electrolytes like sodium. It's a great source of fluid. It's low sugar. For Trevor, who's a very salty sweater, there's a product called My High. It's local. It's locally produced in Baton Rouge, actually. And they have the great website. They have the regular My High that I want to say has, it's been a while since I've looked at it. Let's just say ballpark like 11-ish, 12-ish grams of sugar. Nothing artificial and all that. But they also have essentially it's a zero sugar version of My High. And it's like a liquid pack that you put into your water bottle. And like it's a crowd pleaser in terms of flavor. But it's one that, especially that lower sugar one, can be a great way to get high electrolytes. Nothing artificial, but for someone who's that high volume sweater and high salty sweater, I like something like My High on that. Yeah. Just plug. There's also Noon, the little tablets that you can put into your bottles.
Yeah.
NUUN. So didn't mean to get into like fluid replenishment conversation.
I got deep down Noon during COVID. Like it was the vitamin C immune one. And it was like every day. Gotta do one of those. And I think that helped.
It
get COVID.
adds flavor to our water and helps a lot of people drink it and stuff like that. So as you hear, like we were saying at the beginning, like whatever we're looking to improve upon in the wellness arena, there's probably going to be some sort of a wellness tracker or fitness tracker or app that can help support that. And so we were just talking about, we can track how much we sweat, the volume of sweat, the concentration of our sweat, our glucose levels, our sleep levels, our oxygen levels. You can do an ECG on yourself.
Yeah, there's a lot. It's kind of crazy to think about like how much tech has grown over the last 20 years.
It's wild.
Right? Just even your phone and what you can do with that. But just the wearable tech now is really cool, right? And just using that information.
I'm going to link to an article I did for The Advocate here in New Orleans. It's the NOLA.com link that I'll include, where I covered, not nearly in the depth that Trevor and I talked about these, but I cover these, kind of a snapshot of each of these. We link to these, kind of here's the the ins and outs of each of these because we did cover a lot. And so you can click on that, and that's sort of like your reference guide for everything that Trevor and I just talked about. Awesome, Trevor. This has been, I've learned even more. I had covered it for, like we said, NOLA.com, but talking with you through your experience has like even given more insight into some of these. So thank you so much. Anything that we haven't talked about that would be useful for our listeners?
I think, again, talking about wearable tech and why it's important, but you just have to be into it and you have to want to do something with that information. And so back to the quote, what doesn't get measured doesn't get changed. If we're not measuring what we want to change, it's very difficult to change it because we may not know what's happening really below the surface that the wearable tech is allowed to track.
Yeah, I really like that. You're right. Like what we see or what we sense or kind of the story that we're telling ourselves, there may be so much more that we have no idea. And this can kind of pick up on some of those. And like you said, if we're not seeing it or we're not tracking it, it becomes harder to even be aware to change it. And then I also really like how you pointed out that we need to be purposeful and thoughtful about what do we want to track. And then that kind of helps guide to which of these that we're using. Because otherwise you could be the person who's got like 5 watches, a ring, and patch on your arm. Right.
Yeah. I'm in the know.
Right.
Not doing anything.
Right. But I've got all the data possible.
For sure.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited about this and we'll have to think about what our next podcast will be together.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited.
I always love Trevor's insight and I'm grateful to have him on this podcast for the first time. So lots to learn about the wellness trackers and just how much these have evolved. And as we said, no matter what you're looking to track or see, where does it really matter to put our focus? You know, there's only so many areas that we can really strive to improve at one time. How do we select those 1 or 2 that are going to just be the most impactful? So something like the information that we can get from these trackers can be incredibly useful. I'll include the links that we talked about in the show notes of this episode, including the link to my NOLA.com article, the one that was in the New Orleans Advocate on trackers. It can kind of be your reference guide to accompany what Trevor and I talked about. I'll include the link to the continuous glucose monitor site, NutriSense, and also the promo code. As we said, they sponsored this podcast before. They're not sponsoring this podcast. And that's not why we're featuring them. I really, really love their product and it's been just a game changer. And I think it's important to share that. And as always, let me know what you think. As you're incorporating some of these resources, these tools, these trackers into your own life, I want to hear about it. I am registered dietitian Molly Kimball, and you've been listening to Fueled Wellness and Nutrition, the podcast. If you'd like more Fueled Wellness and Nutrition, please head over to mollykimball.com and you can follow me, Molly Kimball RD, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And if you haven't yet, please go to Apple Podcasts and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. Join us next week for another dose of Fueled Wellness and Nutrition. Thanks for listening and stay focused on living your strongest, healthiest life.